Elisabeth Louise Vigee is an 18th century French portrait painter. She became incredibly famous at the end of the 18th century in France, and then with the revolution, packed up her bags, took her daughter and travelled all over Europe. She's a powerhouse. She's someone who's incredibly modern in her work ethic, in the way that she makes a reputation and just gets out there and really kind of conquers the European portrait market. Vigee Lebrun is born in Paris in 1755. She starts out from a relatively modest background. She has some training early on from her father, who is also an artist, but he actually dies when she's only 12, so it's not as if she's got a really long apprenticeship with him. But the family are clearly connected in artistic circles and knows enough other artists to be able to encourage her to continue her studies. Probably that's a real game changer, because for a woman in the 18th century, there are no kind of formal courses for becoming an artist, but she's also just very feisty and independent. So by the time she's 14, she's producing portraits, certainly contributing to the family income. She's a kind of fully established artist working in her own right. I mean, that would be extraordinary if you were a male artist, but to be a female artist as well, it's kind of even more breathtaking. It didn't stop her always getting into trouble. When she was about 19, she actually had all her brushes and her artist's material confiscated because she'd been so successful. She'd come to the attention of the authorities because she didn't actually have membership of either a guild or an academy, but she'd just kind of gone and done it anyway. Having sort of been slapped on the wrist, she very quickly went off and got guild membership in order to be able to continue this very promising and exciting career. She's married to a picture dealer, but actually the marriage dissolves quite quickly because he's gambling away all her money. She's the one who looks after their daughter and travels around Europe, and there's letters in which she's saying, how hard I have to work to keep a nursemaid, to keep a roof over our heads, to get a tutor for our daughter. She's someone who's absolutely driven and working incredibly hard to make that life and that lifestyle work for her family. Vigee Lebrun is predominantly known for her portraits. She kind of skyrocketed to fame in the late 1770s because she was the first portraitist who can really produce a kind of satisfactory likeness of the young Marie Antoinette. On the one hand, she does produce these kind of formal state portraits. On the other, she produces images that are much more kind of maternal and tender, like Mademoiselle Brun, this lovely young, very cheeky-looking girl with her bag pulling the wool out of it. And it's that Vigee Lebrun really becomes known for, being able to paint portraits that convey a sort of emotional tenor with them as well. This is a self-portrait, and it's where we actually meet Vigee Lebrun. She's staring out at us very confidently, wearing these beautiful fine clothes, so she's clearly dressed up with this wonderful finery. But in her hand, she's also holding her artist's material. Her palette with these great big globs of paint all over it. You can see her brushes, which she's clearly been using because the ends of them have little bits of paint on. She's on the one hand this very young, very attractive, very beautifully dressed woman, and on the other hand, quite literally in her other hand, is her profession. This is a self-portrait that's saying, I'm an artist, I'm also a woman, I can absolutely do both. And even more than that, it's also a self-portrait that's correcting the old masters. Rubens painted a portrait of a young woman in a hat that was always known as the straw hat. But if you look at it, you'll see it's not a straw hat at all. And Vigee Lebrun, we know, saw this portrait in Brussels, and then she comes back and she paints her self-portrait and she corrects the mistake. So look at her here in her beautiful straw hat. Not only is she comparing herself to Rubens, she's actually saying, look, I can go one better. It is just a fact that there are fewer paintings by women artists at the National Gallery than there are by male artists, but I think you have to take into account the time period we cover. Vigee Lebrun grows up clearly before the Revolution, and so she's very much in that world, which was a very kind of strictly hierarchized art world. In order to operate as an artist in Paris, you had to be a member of the Guild or the Académie Royale. But the Academy is not exactly open for women. They actually make a limit in the 18th century to say they won't admit more than 4 women at any given time. If you're a male artist and you join the Academy, you have immediately this great community of peers. If you're a woman, you can only exhibit at the salon. You don't get any of the lessons, you don't get to draw from live models. You can't let a woman go anywhere near a naked man. So it is just a totally, totally different world. Vigee Brun did actually get membership to the Académie Royale, but she got it in a rather unusual way. Instead of the usual kind of strict admittance procedures, the king just admitted her point blank one day, clearly at his wife's urging, and you can imagine how her fellow male academicians felt about this. She had this kind of incredibly prestigious door opened for her. If I stop and think about it, I'm a young woman at the beginning of the 21st century. The opportunities I've had would have been unimaginable to somebody, a woman in the late 18th century. So I look at someone like Vigee Brun and I just think, my goodness, what a trailblazer, what an absolute powerhouse to have the strength of your convictions and the passion and the drive to be able to do that then. We're dealing with many of the same issues. You know, women are still trying to be taken seriously at work. They are still trying to juggle work and families. Women have been doing this successfully for hundreds of years, and we're only going to get better at it.